there! Welcome to what's happening in Brazil. Let's start with the latest news from the country.
During the last week, Brazil surpassed the grim milestone of 340,000 deaths by COVID-19. On April 7th alone, more than 4,000 deaths by the disease were registered. In civil registries throughout the country, the number of death certificates being emitted has risen 40% during the first trimester of 2021 when compared with the same period last year. Researchers from Fiocruz, one of the main scientific research institutions in the country, warned that the only way to stem the spread of COVID-19 is by adopting a series of restrictive measures for 14 days throughout the country. The researchers also defend expanding testing, isolating those who are suspected of having the disease, as well as contact tracing. However, President Jair Bolsonaro has already said that there will not be a nationwide lockdown and continues to criticize governors and mayors who have imposed restrictions on people's movement. A study done between October and December of last year showed that more than 19 million Brazilians went hungry during that period, while 116 million suffered through some sort of food insecurity. This corresponds to more than half of the country's population. The researchers responsible for the study alert that the current situation might be even worse. During that period, many Brazilians in vulnerable situations were receiving emergency aid from the government. The program ended in December and is only resuming now, with people receiving much lower sums. At the same time that hunger grows, the number of billionaires has also risen in the country. And last year, it jumped from 45 to 65 people. Their wealth has increased 71%. Together, they hold a fortune equivalent to almost $215 billion.
The state of Pernambuco is host to one of the biggest clothing manufacturing hubs in Brazil. However, due to the pandemic, many women who work in the industry have seen their incomes drop. Because of this, a group of seamstresses is trying to organize the segment.
In the state of Pernambuco, the municipalities of Caruaru, Toritama, and Santa Cruz do Capibaribe host the main clothing manufacturing hubs in Brazil's northeastern region. According to data from the state's government, these activities employ around 11,000 people. Together, Caruaru and Santa Cruz do Capibaribe make up 16% of Brazil's total clothing production. With the onset of the pandemic, the price paid for clothing items has dropped drastically.
During this pandemic, there were a lot of people taking advantage of workers. Many companies came to work with the collective, helping the ladies to stay employed, but at the same time saying, "You guys will only make this much because we're going to donate some of the items and sell the rest." So they partnered with some of the seamstresses, but not all of them.
Many seamstresses work in factions, which is a business model in which they get the pieces of cloth and assemble the clothes themselves. The challenge now is to unite the workers to preset prices for each item, ensuring that they will not be subjected to working conditions that are akin to slave labor.
People who are united pass on information to those that are uninformed. If my neighbor is going to sew for low pay, it's because she's uninformed. So this information needs to get to people. You can work for X amount because for less than that, it's slavery. You are killing yourself with work. So she will open up her mind and see that others are making good money because they're united. Why would I not join them as well?
Let's remain in the state of Pernambuco, but now to talk about culture. The Maracatu musical genre is one of the state's and nation's most important traditions. Women had a hard time participating in Maracatu ensembles for a long time. However, this is beginning to change. Let's watch.
Maracatu is one of Brazil's oldest traditions. It was born around 300 years ago in the state of Pernambuco, having its origins rooted in African culture. For a long time, women were prohibited from playing instruments, only allowed to participate as dancers. Music teacher and percussionist in the Maracatu ensemble, Gloria Cunha, recounts how in the past, the main maracatu drum, known as alfaia, was made with heavy wood to impede women from taking part.
It was a way to make sure women didn't play, because even with a small alfaia, we weren't able to hold it. So this is the manner through which they discriminate against us in a lot of places. So women think they aren't able to do it because they are incapable, because they are weak.
Today, many of these barriers have been overcome, so much so that in the Pernambuco heartland, there's an ensemble comprised solely by women called Baque da Mulher.
Maracatu was an environment that didn't welcome women. When I started playing, I missed having a space just for us, one where we could play and echo our drums without this worry, with no reproving stares.
More than 10 years after its creation, Baque da Mulher has expanded throughout the country and even beyond it. Today, there are 31 women-only maracatu ensembles in Brazil and one in Lisbon, Portugal, that function as Baque da Mulher franchises. For Yara Lage, who runs one of the branches based in the city of Campinas, in the state of São Paulo, spreading feminist messages through maracatu is the project's main achievement.
We understand that feminism has to be present in several places and that it will exist in many different forms. Understanding this is very important, and Baque da Mulher gave me the basis for understanding what a feminist group really is.
And now it's time for Brazilianism.
Today's recipe comes with the flavor of pride. Making your own bread at home is something that makes us very happy. We'll start making the bread with the sponge. We are going to activate the recipe's fermentation process. The sponge is very simple. I have with me all the flour that goes into the recipe, 450 grams. I'm gonna fill half a cup with the flour and put it in my bowl. Add 10 grams of dry yeast. Add 200 milliliters of water at room temperature. I'm gonna mix it thoroughly. I'm gonna leave it sealed for 15 minutes to allow the ferment to rise. This is the right state for the sponge. I'll begin adding the other ingredients. I'm gonna add an egg and an egg yolk, 3 tablespoons of sugar, 1 teaspoon of salt, 3 tablespoons of melted butter, and I'm gonna mix all these ingredients with the sponge before adding the flour. It's ready, now it's time to add the flour. Now I'll start kneading the dough. We grab it from this end, toss it, then knead it. Toss it and knead it. We're gonna do this for about 6 minutes. My dough is ready, now it's time to make it rise. Since it's hot here, I leave it for 30 minutes. In a colder place, 1 hour. It has to double in size. Look at how pretty this dough is. Now we let it rise for a second time, already in the correct shape. Cover it to make it rise for the second time. Half an hour again, it has to double in size. I'm gonna grab an egg yolk and a little bit of coffee. Spread them on top to give it a nice color. The smaller buns need between 12 to 15 minutes to bake at high temperature. The bigger one between 12 to 15 minutes in high heat, then another 10 minutes in low heat.
Liked the show? So hit the like button and share it with your friends. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel to receive notifications. We'll see you next week.